Clowns. Clowns everywhere. And not just any clowns either. Creepy clowns. All across America, the number of creepy clown sightings have skyrocketed in the last 6 months. These creepy clowns have started a social media trend on the fear of kidnappings and murders by clown. But the truth of the matter is, it's not really true. It's fake, okay? Most of this stuff is made up. There are no substantial facts to back up any of this. Now, the fear of clowns in today's society is simply a trend that is based entirely off of capitalizing on the folklore and the unease surrounding clowns throughout history. The real issue here is the negative effect that this new trend on social media has and how it's affecting the psyche of today's society. First things first, clowns are undeniably creepy in nature. You ever look at a clown and just get the heebie-jeebies, just like, clowns, right? I do, because I personally don't like clowns. But clowns are not rapists and murderers waiting to drag you off into the night after stuffing you into the trunk of the clown car, okay? Why do we see them that way, though? In order to understand why society has taken to the creepy clown imagery, we have to understand what makes them creepy. One of the main reasons that clowns creep us out is that they're wearing disguises, okay? They've got the makeup, the noses, the baggy clothes, the size 47 tennis shoes. You can't really tell who they are, what they want, or what they're going to do. Now, Frank McAndrew, a social psychologist, once said,
"If a person is willing to flout the rules of society by dressing and acting as they do, what other rules might they be willing to break?"
So, here we can see that the seed of doubt and fear of clowns is already in place. People are already scared of clowns. There is another theory as to why clowns are considered creepy. There's the thing known as
the uncanny valley.
Now, this is just a term used to describe when something is uncannily human, but they aren't human, or they are human, but they don't look human. And this is where clowns come in, because we know that clowns are human, but they've distorted the image of a human with the makeup and the wigs, and they end up falling into that uncomfortableness and the fear that is associated with the uncanny valley. One of the problems, however, with the uncanny valley theory is that clowns haven't always been creepy. Okay, people haven't loathed them for all of eternity. I mean, they've been around for thousands of years, clowns have. And when I say thousands, I mean like in ancient Egypt and in medieval times, the royal courts had jesters or clowns there to amuse the guests. Now, the first real notion of a creepy clown debuted in the late 1800s in the opera Pagliacci. The main antagonist, the main bad guy, was a murderous clown. Okay, this is really the first mention of a creepy clown, but it didn't stick. People didn't latch onto it because well after that, as late as the 1960s, okay, McDonald's adopted Ronald McDonald, the hamburger happy clown, as their official mascot due to the popularity of clowns as a friendly face for kids. But the idea of a murderous clown versus a regular clown isn't too far-fetched. Clowns have been portrayed in popular culture as entertaining mischief makers for as long as I can remember. So evil mischief makers wouldn't be that much of a stretch. I mean, evil, entertaining, pretty much the same thing. All of this creepy clown stuff really exploded in the 1970s and 1980s. The creepy clown then morphed from creepy into killer. Now, in the 1970s, John Wayne Gacy was arrested, sentenced to death, and executed for raping and murdering at least 33 teen boys and young men in Illinois.
Oh, good job, Garrett. Just throw in some really dark stuff in there just to scare them a little bit, why don't you?
Unfortunately, it's true. The reason that this caused such a stir in the clowning community was that Gacy had performed for years at fundraising events, parades, kids' birthday parties as Pogo the Clown. He made the character himself and he dressed up and he went and he performed as Pogo the Clown. As such, Gacy, after his arrest, he became known as the Killer Clown. Now, whether he had killed people in clown costumes, we don't know. All we know is that he was a clown and he killed people. Killer Clown. So, if you had some guy that was dressed up as a clown, that was arrested for murdering children, would you really trust clowns after that? Because I wouldn't, and neither did anyone else. And all of this fear of clowns was made worse in the 1980s with the release of Stephen King's best-selling novel, It. You know, the book about the killer clown that killed children and ate them? That one? Yeah. Then the reports started coming in. People were calling the police stations in all the big cities, Chicago, New York, that clowns were trying to lure kids into the darkness or into vans and take them away. Now, most of these claims were hoaxes. They were pranks. They were rumors. But they continued. The story, the legend had begun. This is really where the creepy clown stuff got its root, was in the 80s. Now, this year has seen a return of the creepy clowns all over social media. Now, in the 1980s, the internet wasn't around. I mean, I know it's hard for my generation to imagine, but all the older people out there know what I mean. Back then, news was spread by word of mouth. Radio and television existed, but they didn't have as far a reach into the communities as it does now. But everyone has social media now. Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Tumblr, Instagram, Pinterest, MySpace even if you're really old. And it's all available at the touch of a finger. This means that people have access to it all the time. Smartphones. Almost everyone nowadays has a smartphone. Okay? This has allowed the killer clown myth to spread like wildfire, and it's just fed by the retweets and the shares of social media. It is also really, really good for advertising companies. Jim, what's trending right now? Killer clowns, Bob. Killer clowns. We'll do that. We'll do that. So many people are cashing in on the popularity of the killer clown myth, and they're using social media to spread it around. And they're kind of just jumping on the metaphorical clown car, so to speak. All of this still doesn't answer why creepy clowns are so popular and why are they creepy. Okay, another theory is that they represent social anxiety. The fears of society as a whole tend to wiggle their way to the surface of social media, kind of like that dead body that you buried in the backyard. It keeps coming up every couple of years, you have to push it back down. These fears need a medium on which to be projected, okay? So apparently society was like, hey, let's take clowns and mess them up. I mean, they're already kind of creepy, so let's make them super creepy, okay? Okay. So clowns got distorted to represent our worst fears. Failure, destruction, war, threats from within our own country. The list goes on. And these fears create almost a sense of mass hysteria that has a snowball effect, which is fanned on by social media. Finally, theories aside, I personally think that the killer clown phenomenon is just that. It's a phenomenon. It pops up every few years and then it disappears again. Now, this most recent rash of clown sightings have almost no basis in reality. This year, however, there were actually several arrests of teens and adults in clown costumes terrorizing people on the streets. Now, what their actual intentions or what their reasonings were, we don't know. The creepy clowns do, however, have their place in the social media world, okay? They capitalize on the social anxiety brought about by, this year in specific, a stressful election season. I mean, this election season was the biggest pile of crap I've ever seen, and it makes sense that a lot of people were stressed and anxious and worried about it. But by projecting those fears onto clowns, they're appealing to the primal distrust and fear of things that aren't quite human, that just nestled in the back of our brain. When represented with fear on a massive scale, the hive mentality of social media then takes over with the storm of sharing, okay? #KillerClowns was one of the most popular hashtags this Halloween season. By spreading this misrepresentation of clowns, we are creating a generation of youth that will never know the joy that clowns can bring, okay? Clowns used to be a part of almost every household in the 1950s, with television shows such as Bozo the Clown. He made children laugh every day across the nation. But now their image has been distorted, and as such, we have created a new and dangerous notion of evil clowns waiting to kill you. I believe that this not only damages the psyche of the young generation of society, but it also puts people who have chosen the art of clowning as their profession in a tough situation. And all of this is based on an overreaction to the projection of social anxiety onto a once innocent representation of joy and happiness. So yeah, clowns are a little creepy, but they're not gonna kill you. I promise.